Everything I believed in crumbled in a single moment. The reason was the person to whom I gave my heart. Find out how it all turned out in the end, and how it's completely changed my world forever. It started with laughter. Not the soft kind you'd expect during a quiet night in, but loud, breathless, almost giddy. Something that didn't belong in a silent house with a sleeping child upstairs. I was going over supplier invoices in the study when I heard it. Emma laughing in the kitchen. It cut through the walls like it was meant for someone else. By the time I walked in, her phone was already face down on the counter, the glow of the screen fading fast. She smiled too quickly, said it was just her colleague Martin texting about a project. Something dumb, she claimed. But I wasn't thinking about her words. I was thinking about the one I saw flash across her phone before the screen went black. Just one word. Faster. That night I didn't argue. I didn't accuse. I just listened. Memorized the tone of her voice, the way she looked away a second too long. Then I waited until she left her phone unattended, which she always did during dinner. I installed a silent call recording app that would capture every conversation, every voice memo, without her knowing. I told myself it was probably nothing. Maybe I just proved myself wrong and delete everything. But something had already shifted in the air. I didn't feel like a husband anymore. I felt like a man sitting at a table with a grenade under it, waiting to hear the click. The next few days were calm, too calm. Emma was extra affectionate, texting me little hearts, bringing home pastries from that place I liked. But the recordings started trickling in anyway. Her tone on the phone was different, lower, softer. She was talking to someone named Lucian, not Martin, a name I'd never heard before. The kind of voice she hadn't used with me in years. Flirty, breathless, full of innuendos. I listened to her call him my mustache sin in a voice memo that made my knuckles go white around the steering wheel. That night she came home and kissed me like nothing was wrong. But everything was wrong. I started digging deeper, pulled security footage from the front camera, found her getting out of someone's black car 3 houses down. Couldn't see his face, but she was smiling like a teenager sneaking in past curfew. A few days later, a voice recording from a hotel parking lot came in. She was giggling, telling someone, "I'm only with him because of the kid." She didn't say my name. She didn't need to. That sentence did more damage than a slap ever could. I went through her laptop late one night while she slept, and that's when I found the draft folder. Labeled under fake travel receipts, she'd hidden property division documents. Her name, my job info, even custody suggestions for our son, Liam. She had it all lined up. This wasn't a heat-of-the-moment affair. It was a plan, a fallback. If Lucian didn't commit, I was her safety net. Plan B, the one she'd settle for. I didn't scream. I didn't throw plates or wake her up. I poured a glass of water, sat at the table, and decided to bury her plan before she had a chance to use it. First, I moved all our liquid assets, drained our savings, funneled the money through crypto wallets under shell names. Then I quietly sold our shared business through a friend, locking up her share under the excuse of a tax audit. She didn't even know yet that our financial foundation had already collapsed under her feet. Then came the breakthrough. A tech guy I once helped out owed me a favor. In less than a day, he cracked into her secret email account, one she never used on the family laptop. There, buried in a chain of encrypted threads, was the truth. Emma wasn't just Lucian's lover. She was his mark. He was married. His wife knew about the affair. Hell, they were emailing Emma together, coordinating, threatening. Lucian had legal issues and debts, and Emma was their golden goose, a financial escape plan wrapped in desperation. I almost felt pity for her. Almost. But then I remembered her voice, saying I was just a placeholder, that I didn't matter, that the only reason she was still here was because of the kid. She had no idea who she was dealing with, and this was just the beginning. By the end of that first week, I had more than enough. The call recordings came in nonstop, whispers, giggles, confessions she never meant for me to hear. I had hours of her talking to Lucian, not just about the affair, but about me. Jokes at my expense, lies layered on top of manipulation. And the worst, when she told him, laughing, he still brings me coffee like he thinks I love him. That one stayed with me, crawled under my skin and didn't leave. Every polite morning nod after that felt like betrayal in both directions. But nothing hit harder than the hotel parking lot recording. She was in his car, voice low and careless, telling Lucian, "If it doesn't work out with you, I still have the house. He'll do anything for Liam." Her tone wasn't bitter. It was casual, calculated. She wasn't trapped. She was strategizing, betting on two lives at once, hedging her future on whoever offered more. It didn't matter that we had built a home. I was her plan B, and she was just waiting to see which plan paid better. I kept the mask on, didn't flinch when she kissed me goodnight, didn't change my routine. But inside, I had already stepped out of the marriage. I moved fast, sold our shared business through a friend I trusted, locking Emma's share in limbo under the excuse of a routine audit. At the same time, I moved our money into crypto accounts under shell aliases. She didn't notice. She was too busy sneaking around with Lucian, too confident that I was still blind. Then I got access to her secret email. My tech guy, someone I once helped cover rent years back, still owed me a favor. In less than 48 hours, I had everything. Emma and Lucian's messages were disgusting. Photos, voice notes, gift receipts, and worst of all, email threads between Emma and Lucian's wife. They weren't rivals. They were in on it together. Lucian was using Emma, promising love, manipulating her, draining her financially. His wife played along, even coached Emma on how to guilt me better. It was blackmail dressed as romance, and Emma was too blinded to see it. The moment I saw that, pity flickered, briefly. But then I remembered her voice saying I was just good for the kid, and it vanished. She had earned what was coming. I got to work, printed the worst screenshots, packaged them into unmarked envelopes. The first went to Lucian's wife, a mirror of Emma's filth. The second to a financial attorney I'd hired, with documentation of Emma misusing shared funds, hotel bookings, gifts, and a payment to Lucian masked as consulting. The third to our bank's legal department with a request to freeze her personal accounts for pending review. By the time she noticed, her wallet would be a graveyard. And then came the last move, for now. I contacted a journalist I knew, someone digging deep into corporate fraud cases. I anonymously sent her everything. Lucian's paper trail, his shady imports, embezzlement, tax evasion, and the kicker. Emma, stepping out of his car, caught on my home camera. I didn't need my name on it. I just wanted the fire to spread. 2 days later it did. The article exploded online. Lucian's face on every finance blog, his name tied to pending investigations, unpaid vendors, and frozen contracts. Halfway through the article was Emma's blurry image, stepping out of his car, her smile frozen mid-laugh. Her name wasn't in the text, but the internet worked fast. Someone found her LinkedIn, then her Facebook. Comments started piling up. And just like that, she was no longer an invisible mistress. She was front-page fallout. She didn't come home that night. I got a text around midnight. "We need to talk. It's urgent." I muted my phone, tucked Liam into bed, and sat outside watching the stars like everything was normal. Let her feel what it's like to be ignored. When she finally came through the front door the next day, she looked like a storm had chewed her up and spit her out. Hair disheveled, makeup half-wiped. Her eyes darted across the room like she didn't recognize her own house. She tried to act calm, asked if we could talk. I told Liam to go upstairs and handed her a glass of water. She said, "Everything's falling apart. I'm scared. I need your support." I didn't move. I didn't even raise my voice. I just looked at her and said, "I'm not yours anymore." She cracked. She screamed, shattered the glass on the wall, begged, raged, blamed me for everything from betrayal to insanity. She called me heartless, said I was trying to destroy her. But when she said Liam's name, when she dared to use him, I snapped back. Told her, cold and direct, "You didn't leave me. You left your son when you chose to become another man's shadow." Then I handed her the folder. Inside, a full waiver of parental rights. If she signed, I wouldn't file charges, wouldn't take her to court, wouldn't leak more photos. She'd walk away without prison, without Liam, without access. A clean break, signed in silence. She stared at the documents for a long time. She didn't cry. just sat there, breath caught in her throat, watching everything she built crumble in real time, and she still hadn't hit the bottom. The house was quiet again, but it wasn't peace, it was fallout. Emma had vanished for 2 days after I gave her the waiver. No calls, no texts. I didn't ask where she went. I already knew she had nowhere to land. Lucian wasn't picking up her calls anymore. I'd made sure of that. The article had detonated his career. His company's biggest client had pulled out within 24 hours, and suppliers were cutting ties fast. By the time Emma realized she was just another casualty in his little con game, the door had already slammed shut behind her. She returned on the third day, not with apologies or explanations, but with a desperate glare in her eyes. She stormed in, still wearing the same clothes as the last time, and shouted that she wasn't signing anything, that this was still her house, that I couldn't just erase her like this. She kept calling me cruel, like that word still had power. But her voice cracked when she looked at Liam's shoes by the door and saw only one set, mine and his. That's when she finally understood. She wasn't part of our life anymore. The custody papers were already filed. My lawyer moved fast. Once I presented the evidence, the judge granted me temporary full custody pending review. It would become permanent unless she contested. But even then, she'd need a team and a reputation. She had neither. And the banks? They weren't any kinder. Her accounts were still frozen, pending an investigation into misuse of shared financial assets. The credit cards bounced. The savings account read zero. And the business? She hadn't even figured out yet that her stake had been quietly dissolved. What she did know, finally, was that the world she used to control had slipped from her fingers. The friends she used to brunch with? Silent. The co-workers she used to manipulate with those fake smile emails? Ignoring her. No one wanted to be associated with a scandal. They didn't care if she was guilty. Just that her face was on a blog next to a man facing federal charges. Still, she fought. Or tried to. I got a letter from her attorney the next day, some rookie I'd never heard of, trying to discuss terms. I didn't respond. There were no terms. Just facts. The documents were filed, the evidence submitted. I wasn't negotiating with someone who gambled her family for a man who couldn't even keep his job. But she didn't stop with lawyers. She started showing up at places she knew I'd be. Liam's daycare, the grocery store near my workshop. Always dressed in worn-out clothes, always with some kind of staged despair on her face. She'd never come close enough to touch me, never said anything around people. But she made sure I saw her, like she wanted me to feel something, like she wanted me to see what I'd done. What she didn't realize was that I'd stopped feeling anything for her the moment I heard her call me just convenient. Then her mother came. It was a Sunday afternoon. Liam and I were building a cardboard fort in the living room when the doorbell rang. I opened it expecting a delivery, maybe another envelope. But there she was, Emma's mother, older now, eyes red, shaking. She didn't come to defend her daughter. She dropped to her knees right there in the doorway, looked up at me and said, "I don't know what she's done, but please, please protect my grandson. Don't let him get caught in this." I didn't speak right away. I just stood there, watching this woman break in front of me, maybe for the first time since the divorce she never admitted was coming. Then I said, calm and even, "I already have, and I won't let her touch his life again." She nodded, didn't argue, didn't try to excuse Emma, just left a worn envelope on the step and walked away. I didn't open it until later that night. Inside were old photos, Emma holding Liam when he was a baby, a letter from her mother saying she was sorry for everything, and a check. It wasn't much, but it meant something. Not forgiveness, not closure, just acknowledgement. The next morning, Emma made her final attempt to stop the inevitable. She showed up at my workshop with her attorney and a social worker in tow, thinking she could reverse the damage with a sob story. But the system had already kicked into autopilot. The legal gears were turning. She wasn't a wife anymore. Wasn't a mother in the court's eyes. Just a woman under review for financial and emotional misconduct. Her name was flagged, her access revoked, and I didn't lift a finger. It was the first time I truly saw it in her face. Not anger, not defiance, just defeat. She wasn't just losing control. She was realizing she'd burned every safety rope she thought she could grab on the way down. Still, I didn't gloat. I didn't celebrate. There was no joy in watching her fall, only clarity. She chose this. And now the storm she fed was finally hers to survive alone. By the time Emma finally realized she was sinking, it was already too late to grab hold of anything. Everything was slipping through her fingers. Her company didn't even wait a full week. HR sent an email that ended it cleanly. Immediate termination due to reputational harm. No explanation, no appeal. Just a final reminder to return her badge and company laptop within 48 hours. It was corporate execution, fast and cold, and she hadn't seen it coming. I knew the second she got the news. I saw her through the kitchen window, pacing near her car like she was practicing a speech. Hair tangled, phone in one hand, the other gripping the car door like it was the only stable thing in her world. She stood there for a full 10 minutes before she drove off. She didn't come back that night. She tried crashing at her co-worker's place first, the same woman she used to gossip with about boring husbands. No one answered the door. She sat on the porch for an hour, then left. The next day she went to her sister's house, got the door slammed in her face. Even the people who used to laugh at her jokes were done with her now. Then came the texts, quiet at first, spaced out over hours. I just need to talk. Then, I didn't know he was using me. And finally, Liam needs both his parents. That one hit different, but not enough to make me answer. She was trying to get a foot back in the door, but I wasn't stupid. If I opened that door again, she'd drag more chaos through it. And my son had already seen enough. But the worst was still coming. She went to the media. Not real media. A gossip blog. Cheap, desperate, loud. She spun some twisted narrative, painted herself as a victim, said I was part of Lucian's business, that I turned on her when she found out too much. It was pathetic. The internet saw through it in minutes. A few people even posted old screenshots from the first scandal, dragging her story to pieces. One comment just said, "She's not a victim. She's a volunteer." I didn't have to defend myself. The court of public opinion took care of her faster than I ever could. But then she crossed a line. She showed up at Liam's daycare. They called me right away, said she'd come in claiming she was picking him up early. Luckily, they followed protocol, didn't let her near him. By the time I got there, she was gone. It didn't matter. The message was clear. She wasn't letting go. She was trying to rip something out of the flames, even if it meant breaking the law. I filed a violation with the court that afternoon, had the restraining clause updated. From that moment on, she was legally blocked from seeing Liam without court approval. No loopholes left, no more games. A few days passed, then her mother showed up again. It was evening. Liam and I were painting little wooden cars in the garage when I saw the shape of her at the gate. Older, tired, holding a grocery bag in one hand and an envelope in the other. She didn't speak, just stood there like she was waiting for permission. I nodded once. She walked over, knelt beside Liam, handed him a candy bar, and whispered something I couldn't hear. Then she looked up at me. She's gone. I don't know where she's staying now, but she asked me to say she's sorry. Not to you, to him. She looked down at Liam again, then added, "She's still writing letters. I haven't given them to him. I didn't know if I should." I didn't answer. She left the envelope on the workbench and walked away without saying anything else. Inside the envelope were a few old photos of Emma holding Liam. Birthday parties, beach trips, smiles that felt 1,000 years old now. I flipped through them like they belonged to someone else's life. Then I tossed them in the fire pit out back, watched them curl and vanish into smoke. She was out there somewhere, circling the ruins of her life. Maybe still hoping something would pull her back in. But that door was closed, locked, sealed tight. For her, there was nothing left here. But for Liam and me, there was still a future to protect. And I'd burn the whole world down before I let her near it again. I thought she was finished. After the court order, the failed daycare stunt, the silence that followed, I believed Emma had finally accepted it was over. But she hadn't. People like her don't give up. They wait, they twist. And when they've lost everything, they start swinging wildly just to see what might land. It started one quiet afternoon. Liam and I were in the garage. He was painting wooden dinosaurs while I unloaded a new shipment of maple. That's when I heard it, a soft knock. Not at the front, but the side door. I opened it and there she was. Emma. No makeup, hair pulled back, eyes sunken. She looked like a ghost of herself, empty and worn. Her hands were up like she expected a fight. She didn't even try to smile. "I'm scared," she said. She tried to make it sound like vulnerability, like maybe she was finally telling the truth. I didn't move. She kept going, said she had no one, that she needed my support. Her voice cracked right on cue. She even tried to glance past me at Liam, as if that would soften me. I stepped outside and closed the door behind me, keeping her away from him. I said 5 words. "I'm not yours anymore." And that was it. Her mask broke. Her eyes widened in shock before anger set in. She shouted, accused me of poisoning Liam against her, said I'd ruined her life. Then came the tears, loud, shaking sobs that sounded more like a performance than pain. She fell to her knees and begged. I didn't react. I didn't even blink. "You abandoned your son," I said quietly, "when you became another man's shadow." That shut her up. Then I handed her the envelope. I'd been holding it for days, waiting for this exact moment. Inside was the deal. Full waiver of parental rights, signed and sealed. In exchange, I wouldn't go to the prosecutor with the recordings, the intercepted messages, or the evidence of what she'd done with family money. She'd vanish from our lives, legally and permanently. She stared at it like it might explode. I told her this was her one shot. If she pushed back, if she tried anything else, the gloves would come off. She'd lose everything for real. She took it, didn't say a word, didn't cry again, just walked away, got in her car, and drove off like she had nowhere left to be. I thought that was the end of it. But 2 days later, a journalist called me, one of the same reporters I'd helped during the Lucian investigation. He said someone, anonymously, had tried leaking a counter story, claimed I was the one manipulating things behind the scenes, that I'd orchestrated the downfall of an innocent woman out of jealousy. He didn't buy it. No one would. But he thought I should know. Emma wasn't giving up. She was just shifting tactics. I tightened everything down after that, changed Liam's school schedule, warned the pediatrician, the daycare, even the workshop's delivery routes. But she still found a weak spot. It came from the bank, an old joint account we hadn't touched since the split flag suspicious activity. Someone had tried to move funds using an old security token. The alert hit my phone at 2 in the morning. I called in a favor, had the IP traced. She'd done it from a cheap hotel 3 towns over. That was it. I made the final move. I called a friend, someone who specializes in legal overkill. Within 24 hours, we had audit requests filed on everything Emma had touched in the last 6 months. Every transfer, every purchase, every digital footprint. I wasn't letting her find another crack to squeeze through. She wasn't looking for forgiveness. She was hunting for leverage. And I was going to make sure she never had any again. By the time the audit was in full swing, Emma had vanished completely from the edges of our lives. Not a single message. Not a knock at the door. Nothing but silence. And it wasn't peace. It was the kind of quiet that makes you listen harder, because you know something's still out there, just waiting for the next weak moment to strike. But I'd already sealed every exit. She couldn't come near Liam, couldn't touch our accounts, couldn't crawl back into any part of our world without setting off alarms. The audit hit her like a wrecking ball. I didn't need details to know. Word travels fast in small professional circles, especially when someone's name shows up flagged across multiple financial institutions. She was questioned about everything: personal expenses, transfers to Lucian, purchases she made using the company card before she got fired. One of the lawyers I worked with said it best. She wasn't just sloppy, she was arrogant. The digital trail she left behind read like a confession. She wasn't ready for anyone to look that deep. And the real irony? Most of the money she funneled into Lucian's hands didn't even stay there. He disappeared the moment the investigations caught up to him. No arrests, no trial, just a sudden vanish into international waters. She got played just as hard as she tried to play me. And now, with no job, no cash, and no allies, she was stuck trying to rebuild her life with nothing but scorched pieces. Still, she didn't sign the papers. Weeks passed. I thought maybe she'd finally given in to survival instinct and disappeared for good. But then her mother returned. Again. This time she didn't knock. Just left a sealed envelope in the mailbox with a short note taped to it. "She's not well. Please read this. Do what you think is right." Inside the envelope were two things. First, a photo of Emma from a hospital hallway, wearing a visitor's badge, sitting on the floor with her head down, face buried in her arms. Second, a handwritten letter. I didn't read the whole thing at first. I skimmed it, saw the phrases she hoped would land. "I miss who I was. I thought he loved me. I ruined everything." And near the end, "Liam deserves the truth. Please don't turn him against me forever." She still didn't get it. Liam didn't hate her because of anything I said. He didn't even understand half of it yet, but he knew she was gone. Knew that his bedtime stories were never read by her. Knew that I picked him up, dropped him off, packed his lunches, fixed his drawings when the markers bled through. He didn't ask about her much anymore. When he did, he just said her name the way kids talk about a toy they lost and stopped missing. But I read the letter again that night. I don't know why. Maybe curiosity. Maybe to remind myself of what manipulation really looks like when it's desperate. She wasn't begging this time. She was trying to sound reflective, but there was no weight behind it, no accountability, no mention of Liam's safety, just guilt filtered through self-pity, dressed up as redemption. I didn't respond. 2 days later, she tried something else. The final move I think she believed would break through everything. She showed up at my father's house. He called me right after she left, said she looked sick, said she wasn't angry or fake anymore, just drained. Asked about Liam, said she wanted to write him a birthday card, not to give it to him, just to write it. My father told her to go home, told her I was doing what was best for my son. She left quietly, didn't argue, but it didn't sit right with me. Not because I felt sorry for her. That part of me was long gone, but because it confirmed something. I hadn't broken her spirit. She was still hoping for a window, still looking for some crack in the wall where she could slide in and rewrite the ending. So I made it permanent. I met with the lawyer the next morning and pushed the paperwork through. Finalized the parental rights termination. I'd given her every chance to walk away quietly. She refused, so I finished it for her. 3 days later, the documents were stamped, approved, filed, sealed. She had no more legal claim to Liam. No visitation, no shared custody, no say. She was, in the eyes of the law, a stranger to him now. And then something strange happened. She disappeared, not just from my world, but from everyone's. Her phone went dark. No more blog posts, no more staged victim interviews. Even her mother stopped trying. I asked a contact to run a soft trace. No activity on her accounts, no travel records. Just a silent void where her chaos used to live. At first it felt like peace, but it wasn't. Because even though she was gone, the damage lingered. Liam would still wake up some nights and ask why there were monsters in dreams. I knew what he meant. Not literal monsters. The kind that smile, the kind that lie, the kind that say, "I love you," when they're already halfway out the door. I told him we were safe, and we were. But safety didn't erase what happened. It just meant I was still standing, guarding what mattered. Because even if she never came back, I had to stay ready in case she did. 6 months passed, seasons changed, and the chaos that once ruled my life faded into something quieter. The noise was gone, but not forgotten. I could still feel its echo in the walls, in the way I checked locks twice before bed, in how I kept Liam's routines tighter than ever. She hadn't returned. No more letters, no more visits, no attempts to crawl back through the cracks she once lived in. It was like she'd been erased, but the scars she left behind were still etched deep in our lives. By now, Liam didn't say her name anymore. He asked about her once, on a Sunday morning, while we were building wooden planes in the backyard. He didn't ask where she was. He just asked why she didn't wave goodbye. I swallowed the lump in my throat and told him what he needed to hear. Not the truth, but a safe version of it. That she had to go far away, that it wasn't his fault, that he was loved. He nodded once and went back to painting the wing red, like it was just another quiet answer in a noisy world. I'd opened a small workshop just outside the city. Nothing flashy, nothing big, just me, a few shelves of hand-carved toys, and a workbench where Liam helped after school. He liked sanding things down, running his fingers over the smooth curves of the animals and cars we shaped from raw wood. It kept his hands busy, gave him something real to hold on to. And for me, it kept the fire in my chest from turning into something darker. We started going to a local kids camp on weekends, a place that didn't ask questions, where Liam could run barefoot through mud and yell at the sky like he was untouchable. That's where I met her. Not Emma, someone else. One. A woman who volunteered there. Kind eyes, paint on her jeans. The first time she spoke to me, it wasn't about small talk. It was about Liam. She came over while he was chasing dragonflies and said, "Your son told me you're a hero. He said you saved him from monsters." I didn't say anything. Just smiled because what else could I do? How do you explain the weight of that to someone who wasn't there for the fall? How do you describe being betrayed in your own home? How it felt to watch a woman weaponize your love like a scalpel? There was no script for that, just silence and gratitude that it was over. That night, Liam fell asleep fast. He was getting better at that. Less tossing, fewer nightmares. I stayed up, sitting in the workshop under a single bulb, staring at a new toy I'd been carving. A knight holding a shield, arm raised. Not in battle, but in defense. Then my phone lit up. An unknown number. No name. Just a message. "I've lost everything. I just want to talk." It didn't say who it was. Didn't have to. I stared at the words, heart steady, hands still. There were no threats, no guilt, no blame. Just a single hollow request from the wreckage of a life she'd set on fire. I didn't reply. I didn't think about replying. I opened the settings, blocked the number, and turned the phone face down. I went upstairs and climbed into bed beside Liam. He shifted in his sleep, muttered something about dinosaurs, and curled closer to me. The house was dark. The street outside was still. No noise, no headlights, no shadows creeping through the window. Just breathing, mine and his. I closed my eyes, and for the first time in over a year, the silence wasn't heavy. It was peace, because the storm was over, and I had won, not with revenge, not with fire, not with fury, but by surviving and keeping what mattered most, untouched by her ruin. That's all for now, folks. Thank you for being with me today and listened. And if you liked my story, please subscribe, hit the like button, and comment below what you think about all this and what would you do if you were me. Also, don't forget to check my other stories in description below.